Now that we're done laying out the UV shells, let's see how well we did. And what we need to do is first download something called TexTools. This is a free add-on. You can just go to the internet and search Blender TexTools. Then once you have that, this is a zipped file. Then what we can do is we leave it zipped and then go into Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and then Install. And then I click on TexTools and then I click Install. Now I already have it installed, so I'm not going to install it again. And so if you have it installed, actually let me see, TexTools. I can see here it is. After I install it, then I'm going to hit the check to open it up, and then if I open this up I can see some more stuff about it. So again, what I'm about to show is going to be using that. So if you don't have that installed, you're not going to be able to do what I'm about to show. So again, we've got this laid flat, but how do we know if it's good? So if I click on this little arrow at the top here, or if I hit N will also open it up. I can see now there's something called the TexTools. And here's another add-on that I added but before. It's called Magic UV, so you probably won't have that either. But I feel like here's TexTools, and now if I open this up, I have different things that I can do. Okay, you can see there's quite a bit in here. But what I want to draw your attention to is the checker map. And if I click on this, it's going to create a checker map that, as long as on this side I'm in texture mode, which is this one here, I'll be able to see the checkers. Now what's the point of seeing the checkers? Well, I feel like if the checkers are square, that means that the texture would be able to hold its detail when we color on the 3D model. And I'm going to make the checkers smaller. So if I come here and do something like 1024, hit resize, okay, you can see that they're even smaller yet. And now going back to that example of what I said before, think about the idea of if I wanted a tattoo that said I love Blender, I could just go here because this would be the shell that's associated with the arm, and I could put I love Blender right there. Okay, not that we have to necessarily color on this two-dimensional version, but if we're going to export any texture on our character, it needs a two-dimensional representation of the 3D object, so it can basically take the color information, put it to an external file, and then it can be brought into another program. Like if you're going to bring it into a game engine or bring it into another program altogether. So now that I have this checker, I can kind of look to see if the checkers look pretty good, that they're readable. And again, if the character was just, if it was a mess, these checkers would be all stretched out and really obvious that something is wrong. But now, well, actually, let's take a look at this. So if I select the head, and you'll see what happens. If I start to, let's say, rotate it, you can see how the checkers, and you can see that I'm rotating it. It looks like I have proportional editing on. And when I'm doing that, you can see how it's screwing it up. And that's what I mean by that would be something that is obviously wrong. Okay, so now that I have this, I can go here to checker map, and if I click on it again, there's going to be a different type of checker map. This one obviously has letters and numbers, and what that's telling me is the orientation of the shell. I can see that this one's like flipped upside down, but if one of them was flipped backwards, okay, so if this was flipped backwards, and I could probably find here something where it would flip it. I could flip it the other way, but I feel like then the letters would be the wrong way, and that would tell me that it's the wrong way. So again, going back to that example, if it said I love Blender, and you wrote that on here, then your I love Blender would be backwards on here. So we want all the letters to be readable. And again, if I change this, resize. Okay, I can kind of see a little bit better. And I can see that all of my letters are readable. That's good. Again, if they weren't, I'd flip the shell around. Here you can see, here's flipped right here, it looks like. Now, if I click on this again, this is a new texture or a different texture, and this one is showing obviously the directionality of it. So I can see that this shell is flipped one way, and it's the opposite way that this one is flipped. So if I took, and I can see the legs, the orientation's down, and this one's the orientation is up. So if I took this shell here, and if I rotated it, and again, I don't want proportional editing on, so if, let me see. I'm just going to make my wheel, there we go. And you can see that when I do that, I can flip it this way, and now both the legs are in the same direction. Why would I care about something like that? Well, let's say if I don't know, was making some wooden doll or something, and I had wood grain. And if I put a picture of some wood on here, if I wanted all of the wood grain to be facing the same way, I would have to make sure that my shells are actually correctly aligned. And I can see that based on the arrows. And then I could rotate the shells until all the arrows are pointing the same direction. It doesn't matter necessarily what direction, but I feel like then I would know that they're in sync with one another. And then you can see you can toggle through. So this one, obviously, if it's just a square, we can see that the resolution is good and readable. This one is telling us if the shells are flipped backwards or forward or the correct way. This one is the orientation of the shells, and this one's just nothing. Okay, so if I come back here to modeling, I'm just going to turn off proportional editing. And now if I come back in here, I can come in here, and again, I can select shells, and I can rotate them. And sometimes what, I can just press G. Sometimes what people like to do is orientate this so it makes sense. So pretend that you know, somebody else was going to texture this, and I wanted to make like a coloring book, if you will, of shells that they could tell what each thing is. Or if I go like this and make this bigger, so if I press S for scale, you can see that the checkers get smaller, and this would obviously have more resolution, but this would be illegal because I can't have it go outside the square, and I also can't have anything overlapping like that. So even though it doesn't really show us here that there's a problem, there is overlapping occurring right here, and I want to make sure that it doesn't overlap. But I'm just going to kind of undo that. And I also don't want to have wasted space if possible. I can kind of see all of this as wasted space. So I feel like what that's saying is that's kind of like potential resolution that I could have had. So maybe I go like this, maybe I go like this, and just kind of scale that up a little bit. And maybe I cheat a little bit. So it's not perfectly the same resolution throughout, but I feel like I'm kind of getting a benefit of having extra resolution in some areas, kind of in the more important areas. Let's say in the bottom of the foot. I can see that that's probably the bottom of the foot. And what is this? This is, let me see. So if I want to kind of figure out what something is, I can just press G, and I can kind of move that around. Oh, you know what I bet this is? I bet this is the inside of the eye, or the inside of the mouth. So if I press slash, well, let me see. So this stuff here, if this is like the inside of the, yeah, so this is probably the inside of the eyes here. I'll just press G to, yeah, so that is the inside of the eyes. And I bet this is the inside of the mouth. Maybe on the inside of the mouth, maybe I want to cut that. So what I could do is I can come in here, and I could just cut that going across. So I'm going to go into edge mode, and select that. So I'll just hit Alt, and I can see that it went all the way around, and I don't want it to do that. So I'm just going to go like this. I'm going to go from here, and then Control, well, let me see, that's, no, from this is the middle. And then I'm going to come over here, Control click, and then I'm going to Control single click on that, Control click on that. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Okay, yeah, there I can see it's cutting all the way through. And now maybe I go to Q, Mark Seam, and now let me try laying this out one more time. A, and then Q, and then unwrap. And now I can see, did that cut that? So it looks like it didn't cut it all the way. I'm wondering if I switch back to this, now I can cut it here. Like, you can see that it's kind of hard to grab it inside the mouth. And then I'll do Q, Q, Mark Seam, and then Q, unwrap. Oh, A, Q, unwrap. Aha, there we go. And I can see here, maybe I missed these. Aha, there we go. And now I can see that it allows to unwrap. So if I wanted to position these a special way, I'd have to swap that, press A over here. Now I can select the shells. And again, maybe make these bigger. I'll give these the same orientation just because that's not going to hurt it. And these are the eyes and the mouth, so that's what all of that is. Maybe I'll just kind of bring that up here in the corner. I can't like throw it away or delete it. I do need everything considered. And but I feel like, again, I think that not maybe the greatest, but not too bad either. Okay, great. So there we've got a layout, and we know that it's right, and if we needed more control, we'd know how to do that. If I wanted to hide this menu, I can press N, and it goes back like that. And now we have a laid out character.